Hey, we are
Hi, Kip.
spotlighted.
Kip.
That means we are now on the public YouTube and public Facebook page, which means that we'll now have a short devotional, and then in a couple of minutes we'll change into a time of prayer. So welcome everybody that's on Zoom, and also those that are joining us on Facebook and YouTube. So we're gonna take time to read another psalm this evening. Um, and then we'll spend majority of our time praying. Um, and for those listening online who aren't here with me on Zoom, if you want to know more about Eastside Baptist Church, you can just visit us on the web at joinebc.com. So let's move over to tonight's psalm. I got to move myself. There we go. And then there we go. So tonight we're going to read another psalm from the Sons of Korah. And like last week's psalm was from the Sons of Korah. And so if you want to know more about who are the Sons of Korah, just watch last week's Wednesday night service, and you can find out a lot more about who are the Sons of Korah, because there's some information about them in the Old Testament. So that was a fun thing that we did last week. But this evening we're going to look at this psalm, Psalms 44. And before we read the psalm, I just want to set it up a little bit, because some psalms aren't exactly what we would expect, and this is one of those psalms, because we like to think in the idea that, if I'm good, then God is going to bless me and I'm going to have a good life. Now, I should be good, but just because I'm good doesn't necessarily mean that life is going to be rosy. And we know that idea that, we can't put God in a box. We can't say, if I do X, then God is going to do Y.
Come sit and listen.
Because that idea of once we think that we can control God, all of a sudden we don't understand who God is. And sometimes we're confused because God doesn't do what we expect him to do sometimes. As a matter of fact, lots of times God doesn't do what we expect him to do. And part of that is we often will have maybe a wrong understanding of God. We think of God like a genie in a bottle. You rub the bottle and you get three wishes. So God isn't that way. God is God. I think what is the scripture passage? Another psalm, I think it is, that says, God does what he pleases. And we get confused by thinking that if I do something, I can control what God does. And God has a will. Matter of fact, our will that we have of, this is what I want, and this is what I'm going to do, and I choose those things. Where was that will fashioned from? That was fashioned. God has a will, and God does what he wills. And our model of, we think and we do things based on what we are willing, those things, that same model was given to us from God. And so the idea that we think God is somebody that we can control, or that as simple as, if I do one thing, he's going to respond to me exactly like I think, so is a little bit isn't exactly how it works. And we get confused because sometimes, I'm working with Pam, my spouse, or you work with people, and sometimes you do something and you expect a response and you don't get the response you think. And same thing, sometimes I don't respond how Pam thinks I should respond. And a lot of times that's because we're not exactly on the same page. And sometimes it's because I don't understand her, or she doesn't understand me. And so there's sometimes this gap. And so tonight we're going to read a psalm um, of the sons of Korah, and they're going to be talking about they're going to be talking about God and who God is. And sometimes when God doesn't do what we expect, sometimes we get disillusioned, or worse, or sometimes we don't. We transfer to our kids this wrong understanding of who God is, and they get disillusioned because they don't see, that they miss stuff where um, where they expect things to go well and right, and when things don't, it's like, okay, well, wait a minute, who's this God that you serve? And maybe we don't lose our faith because we have a little bit better understanding of who God is, but I think it's important that we pass on to those around us who is this God that we serve. And so that's why I like tonight's psalm. It's not going to be a comfortable psalm, but it's a psalm that is a psalm. It's a real psalm. And the sons of Korah are going to be talking about that idea of, okay, we know who God is. God is our God. He brought us out of Egypt. And they're going to be like, we're following what you asked us to do. And then they're going to be talking about, but you're not blessing us like we expect. Matter of fact, we're suffering, and we weren't expecting to be suffering because we're following you. And then we're going to see the result, or the kind of what is their response in the psalm from that. And so let's go ahead and get started and read through Psalms 44, and understand a little bit more about who is this God, and more than who is God, more who are we, and what are our natural thoughts and feelings about God, and what is a good response when things don't go like we expect them to go. So let's get started. Psalms 44. We have heard it with our ears, O God. Our ancestors have told us that you did in their days, what you did in their days, in days long ago. With your hand, you drove out the nations and planted our ancestors. You crushed the peoples and made our ancestors flourish. It was not by their sword that they won the land, nor did their arm bring them victory. It was your right hand, your arm, and the light of your face, for you loved them. And you can go back and you can read about God bringing the children of Israel up out of Egypt and putting them in the land. I mean, this is a remembrance of what God did, how the amazing thing God did of bringing Israel out of Egypt and into the land. You are my king and my God, who decrees victories for Jacob. Through you, we push back our enemies. Through your name, we trampled our foes. I put no trust in my bow. My sword does not bring me victory, but you give us victory over our enemies. You put our adversaries to shame. In God, we make our boast all day long, and we will praise your name forever. But now you have rejected and humbled us. You no longer go out with our armies. You made us retreat before the enemy, and our adversaries have plundered us. You gave us up to be devoured like sheep, and have scattered us among the nations. You sold your people for a pittance, gaining nothing from their sale. You have made us a reproach to our neighbors, the scorn and derision of those around us. You have made us a byword among the nations. The people shake their heads at us. I live in disgrace all day long, and my face is covered with shame at the taunts of those who reproach and revile me, because of the enemy who is bent on revenge. All this came upon us, though we have not forgotten you. We had not been false to your covenant. Our hearts had not turned back. Our feet had not strayed from your path. But you crushed us and made us haunt for jackals. You covered us over with deep darkness. If we had forgotten the name of our God or spread out our hands to a foreign God, would not God have discovered it, since he knows the secrets of our heart? Yet for your sake, we face death all day long. We are considered as sheep to be slaughtered. Awake, Lord. Why do you sleep? Rouse yourself. Do not reject us forever. Why do you hide your face and forget our misery and oppression? We are brought down to the dust. Our bodies cling to the ground. Rise up and help us. Rescue us because of your unfailing love. And that is the psalm of the sons of Korah. It's a maskil for the director of music, so it's likely was a psalm that was sung back in the Old Testament time. But that idea of we don't understand exactly why God isn't taking care of us, but we are going to remain faithful to him in that psalm. Okay, so let's transition now over to a time of prayer. And as Brian takes us off of the YouTube and Facebook, and then we will start sharing some prayer requests